PhD, and you're listening to the TyePod.
Hi, everybody. It's another edition of the TyePod, and today I'm joined by Ann Mock, who is a blind storyteller, and we're definitely going to get into your background and journey and how you got to this point. And I know there's definitely commonalities and things that we both experienced too that we share. So it's great to have you, and looking forward to visiting more.
Thanks, Ty. Thanks for having me on. So looking forward to our conversation.
Absolutely, yeah. But before I kind of dig into the deeper questions and everything, I have been asking guests if they have a song that's kind of their, maybe like their theme song or kind of their life story in a song or something, one that kind of means something to you. Is there anything that comes to mind?
Um, the one that comes to mind is from uh, I can't think of it. I use it on used it on a couple Instagrams.
Yeah.
It's sung by Pink, and it's something about it's from The Last Showman.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was like something. uh, uh, Every night I lay awake. It's about
Mhm.
dreams.
I
Yeah,
know
yeah.
I've
I'm
heard that
like it's
one.
out of my
Like,
head right now.
yeah, yeah, but no, I know the exact one. That's
Yeah,
good. Yeah. But no, I kind of like to, it seems like all of us kind of get into music, I think, on one level or another. So I like
yeah,
to get an idea of that. Yeah.
yeah. Music speaks to us,
Yeah,
definitely.
definitely. But no, if you wanted to just give a like a brief highlight of, you and like what you're working on, and then we can get into like actual, details too after that.
Sure. So my name is Ann Mock. I am an Asian woman. My hair is in loose waves. I'm just wearing a white top, and I'm sitting here in my office. I have some flowers. They are fake because I cannot keep them alive. And I'm coming to you from Vancouver, BC, in Canada. And I am a blind content creator, a TEDx speaker, author, and advocate, just navigating life and work through vision loss. And it's really taught me about resilience and leading with authenticity and
Hmm.
purpose.
Definitely, I love that. And I relate to you with the plants, by the way. I've been having some trouble keeping mine watered this summer. So yeah, I
Yeah.
definitely know that feeling. But no, that's so great. I know that there's so many areas, of advocacy that you're involved with. And you've shared some details on TED Talks and everything too that I've looked into and tried to incorporate, some elements there for sure. But yeah, I think as you've gone along, has it been something where you go to different media outlets? Do you feel like there's something good about, just so many different avenues and ways to get your message out there to people?
I think the biggest thing for me was just starting social media. That was the biggest thing. I
Mhm.
was very shy, quiet person. I don't I don't want to be on camera or nothing. But it's that when you're going through a really tough time and you're looking for connection and community. And that was the main purpose on going on social media and
Yeah.
finding people that were like me, who had my same vision loss condition and also struggle with chronic illness as well. And finding people if to see, are they surviving? And
Mhm.
if they're surviving, are they thriving? Because I want to be one of the thrivers. Um, so that was really important to me
Mhm.
too. And I also wanted to do something that, could be helpful. And at the time when I started, it was just around the pandemic and small businesses were struggling. And I wanted to find some small way to help. And so I would shop local and then I would tag them. And I realized I can create content that is accessible as possible.
Mhm.
And so that was my goal because I really wanted to challenge Instagram. And I
Yeah.
chose Instagram as the medium because it's a visual medium. And I
Right.
wanted to show that, yes, we can make content as accessible as possible. Me with vision loss, I can still create beautiful content. I still have so much that I want to see, feel, and experience, and I want people to experience that through my lens as well. And that was the jumping off point that has led me into the other areas,
Mhm.
whether in media or speaking or in writing. And it's really important for me for representation. I want to show that we belong in all these spaces.
Mhm.
Um, we're all amazing and we have so much to offer. So that for me has been really important representation.
Absolutely.
Mm.
I think that that's such a great way that you chose Instagram first. It's kind of your initial starting point, because there are, I think, so many things that have changed. It seems like in recent years on making it more accessible to everybody, and just like I think the number of devices that can use different
Yeah.
features of it now. It seems like it's been an improvement, but I'm curious, what have you noticed anything specific since when you started to now that's really been a game changer maybe for you with your content delivery?
For me, it's really bringing awareness and education. A lot of my audience is the sighted community and the visually impaired community, so really
Mhm,
bringing those two together and seeing how um, making content is not that the accessible is not really hard. It just takes a little bit of thought, but it can be done, and it's a way of including everybody so that no one gets left behind. So I've really loved seeing how the sighted community has embraced that and how that connection with the visually impaired community, how we're supporting each other. I find that on Instagram, like they're the most kindest and supportive people.
mhm,
Like once you find one, it's like everybody wants to connect together and
mhm,
is supporting each other and cheering each other on. And I think that just builds a really great community. And if we can have that ripple effect, outside of social media, I
mhm.
think that's even better.
That's true. That's true. And
Yeah.
maybe, by creating that through online, through social media, maybe it's going to spill over. I'm sure it has a bit already, but maybe in the future it's going to even get better as far as kind of that connection and reaching out to, more of the global community, because I feel like
Mhm.
I don't know, it's a small world in a way. It seems like when
It
you
is.
you start finding on social media, everyone that's in the disability community, and it's really cool to see. And I think there's still a lot of room to grow for sure.
Absolutely.
Um, yeah,
And
as far as go ahead.
oh, I was thinking like, we all have these different journeys, with our
Yeah.
disabilities, whether even in the visually impaired community, we might have the same diagnosis, but there's experiencing it differently. But we all
Mhm.
have a compassion and an empathy, and we can like communicate and commiserate together, and it's just like, oh, people get it, right?
Right.
And you need to find that so that you can like get something from that, and you can also thrive. Like you can know that I can keep going on this path.
Yeah, and actually that's a really good segue. I wanted to get into kind of your, journey, and maybe how you got to the point where you found that connection online, and what that, kind of experience was, getting to that point.
And for me, with the visually impaired community, we would all once you find one, you'd connect with another, and it starts building. And it's a lot of in the comment section or in the DMs, and it's just like I get you, I understand you, and because sometimes you have those, yeah, like I bump into this or whatever, or like, night blindness and things, and like, oh yeah, that person understands too.
Mhm.
And you might have family, like I have a very good support system, my family's wonderful, but they don't understand exactly. So it is nice to connect with others. And with some of them, we've been even like met online and on Zoom and just, created these little pockets of communities where we can
Mhm.
chat, or we've even gone traveling together. Like I just went traveling into New York with a group of other blind ladies,
Mhm.
and we just had only met online.
Well, I was curious. So that
Yeah.
connection was formed online, and then you ended up
Yes.
meeting in person. Yeah. What
Yeah.
what was that
Yep.
like the first time that you saw each other, like in real life?
It was like we'd always known each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very like-minded, and heart-centered people, and it was just like a sisterhood. Like we just all gave each other hugs, and just walking down the street together. We weren't alone.
Mhm.
There was like 3, 4 of us waving our canes
Mhm.
around, and just taking over New York and going to
Yeah.
restaurants and, just living our lives. And so, like some people will be like, wow, like there's 3 or 4 of them. But it's like, you
Yeah.
know what?
Right.
We can travel, we can do so many things, and we should take up space. Take
Right.
up the space that's ours too. So I think the more we show up and just live our lives,
Mhm.
um, it brings that understanding and
It does,
awareness.
and I think back, like, there's so many of us, I feel like, that we don't necessarily know, or we didn't grow up around
Mhm.
disability, or didn't experience it very much, and so it
Yep.
it can be extremely isolating, I think, on that. So, like, when you finally realize that there's people out there that you connect with, and you're like, "Oh, okay, that finally someone, fully understands what's going on."
Yes, and
It's
just feel less alone.
exactly.
That's a big thing. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, that's really cool. And that's something that when people try to say you can't make connections online, or they're not real or anything, it's not true at
No.
all. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I
that's
was
really
always
cool.
afraid, like, with social media, because, you hear all the negative,
True.
but, I've been very fortunate that it's been a lot of positive.
Yeah,
But I'm also aware, also aware that like, you know what, I can step back at any time. Like,
true.
my mental health is more important if anything kind of goes wrong.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Well, it
yeah,
doesn't
I've
sound like you've
yeah.
had too many of those moments, so
No,
fortunately,
I've
yeah.
been very, very, very fortunate. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, same here, and I think a lot of it too is, like, finding that community that does have the empathy and everything. It doesn't necessarily completely remove all the negative or any of the comments or anything
Mhm.
or assumptions and stigma, but it does provide some kind of barrier, it seems like, from
Yeah.
my experience at least. So, yeah,
Yes.
that's
Same
good
here.
to see.
Yeah. And I think
Um,
it's also approach as well. It makes a big
True.
difference. Yeah.
Yeah, it really does. But I was kind of wondering if you could share a little bit about your diagnosis and your pathway. I know we touched on that briefly in our conversation before, but I'd love to share that with the audience, the deep level of detail that you want to on kind of your pathway through that.
Sure. So I have a rare inherited retinal eye condition called cone rod dystrophy. So, you know, it's genetic. I don't know anyone that in my family that has it. I've always struggled with vision loss as a kid. I was like, the one that had like the thick Coke bottle lenses. I can't play sports very well. Like I can't catch, I can't hit, I can't do anything
Mhm,
like that. Um, and I always thought it's just like a me thing, not really realizing that there was something else kind of going on. But it wasn't until adulthood, in the middle of raising my kids, I was noticing that I wasn't able to see the things that I know I'm supposed to be able to see. I was driving at the time, I couldn't see those street signs ahead of me, even though like I've driven it so many times, like I know what street it is, but I just
mhm,
couldn't read it anymore. And then I would look at the license plates in front of me and I couldn't even make out those letters and numbers. And I just thought it's kind of odd, and I kept thinking, "Do I need another prescription or something?" Um, and I kept going to the doctor's office, the
mhm,
optometrist, and took about 8 years to get to a diagnosis. But in that before that 8-year mark, I was, getting close to a crosswalk, and I couldn't see the person, like, crossing in front of me,
mhm,
just only towards the center, and luckily, I was able to brake, but that really, um, made me think twice about driving, and so I decided to give up driving on my own until I could figure out what was going on. And I was also noticing that I was having night blindness, like the worst times were um when it hit dusk. In the winter it like gets
mhm,
dark at 4:30. I couldn't see. And it was changing the way that I was navigating life. My job was like 8 to 4, but I would literally leave at 5, 6 in the morning and drive so that there was no one on the road, and make it to the office, kind of get myself settled,
mhm,
orientating myself. And then I would stay till like 7 o'clock at night
mhm.
because to miss rush hour,
Right.
because I was so afraid. Um, and in this time, my husband had also suffered a stroke. So I was the primary breadwinner for the
Mm,
family. So I was working my full-time job, but I was also working um, medical transcription job. I was typing at night, and I was working. I got a job at a fertility clinic
mhm,
too. So I was working like 2, 3 jobs. And I thought, maybe it's the stress. Uh, maybe it's the computer strain. I'm not
mhm.
sure. But there was definitely something happening with my vision. Mm, So I gave up driving and I was like taking the bus and things like that. And I called my bus my limo because, I have to like, my mindset
Hey,
has to
yeah,
change, right?
yeah. Well, it is a stretch for
And
sure.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, so 8 years of keep going to the doctor, and
Uh-huh.
then at that point, I finally decided, you know what? Maybe if I get contact lenses, maybe if I just put them like right against my eyes, maybe I'll see better.
Uh-huh.
But it turned out it actually made it far worse. And then that's when the optometrist said, I'm going to send you to the retina specialist.
So it took the
And
contact lenses to finally have them send you to a specialist
yeah,
after. Wow,
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
And had they like what they didn't have any idea really before.
No,
Yeah.
I was feeling like I was having psychological issues
Okay,
because
yeah.
they're telling me my eyes are fine, and it was basically 20/20. They were saying my acuity,
Wow.
but there was something else that's going on. So I went to the retina specialist, and she was the first one who looked me in the eye and said, "I believe you."
Mhm.
And that in itself was a huge weight. So, we went through about 2 years of testing, and
Uh-huh.
then that's when they found that I had, this cone rod dystrophy. So it's basically the cell at the back of my eye, those cones and rods that are dying. So things and they help you to see, light perception,
Mhm.
and color, and so that's what happened. My acuity was okay, but there was something else that was going on back there.
Right.
And the day that I got my diagnosis
Uh-huh.
was in the morning. And that same day in the afternoon, I signed a contract because I got full-time position with a fertility clinic. And it was great because I wouldn't have to do so many jobs. Like the pay was amazing, the benefits were amazing, the commute was a lot easier,
Mhm.
but I just didn't know where my future was anymore.
Right. And how did you navigate, sharing that news with the employer, right? Was that something you did right away, or did you
You know,
try to
I
persist through before? Yeah.
yeah, I tried to persist through because I didn't know how fast this was gonna be, how
Right.
slow, and I was still able to work really well. Like people thought, wow, she's a great employee.
Mhm.
But it's because I have used muscle memory and a lot of memorization. And I worked
Right.
in the procedure room, which is very organized. Um, and I could tell, when the doctor was moving, and I just knew everybody's movements like an orchestra. And that's how I managed.
Yeah.
I'd be the one that was training people. I'd be the,
Well, see,
so
but you have talents that not many could bring, regardless of vision, right?
yeah,
Like that. I mean, that those are things that even that everybody I don't think can do.
yeah, yeah. It's really funny. Like even with that loss, there was other things that I had other strengths
Mm,
that I could
yep.
rely on. So I worked for about 5 years, and in that 4 to 5 year range, that's when I noticed I always knew that there would come a time where I would have to um, move jobs, have accommodations, etc. So
Mhm.
I was preparing for that. So here in Canada, we have CNIB, Canadian National Institute for the Blind. So I connected with them. I did orientation and mobility training with my white cane, kitchen skills. I went to the Apple store to figure out how to use my phone better, just so that I could be prepared. Um, and so then I finally talked to my nurse managers and told them,
Mhm.
and they were all like shocked. Like they're like, we would have never thought, And I told the doctors as well, and they are, like, you're the best we've ever had. Like we would have never thought that you were struggling in any
Yeah.
way. So I did get accommodations in the fall of that
Uh-huh.
year in September. I moved to a desk job, but I actually found it harder because it was harder for me to concentrate on the computer.
Yeah.
And only because very small people knew, nobody else really knew. And I had to get the IT guy to like change my screen and make my mouse
Oh,
bigger
yeah.
and things like that. And just
Start
people
making it
like,
adaptations that fit.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
But it was hard because I was really living this double
That's
life.
such a big thing too, like that changing and realizing, well, I have these symptoms and what I have to do to actually get around,
Yeah.
that and still be productive. I mean, that's a level of anxiety and stress, I think, that
Yes.
that isn't even thought about necessarily,
Yes.
like
Exactly. It was a
those
huge
pivots in
mental.
a way. Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
also needed to start using a white cane because I had started to fall. But I had been proactive about learning it. But when
Yeah.
it came down to it, I did not want to use it. I was afraid of the stigma, and it's even hard for me to reconcile. Like I could see, but I can't see.
Right.
So how would the people at work think about me?
Right.
So I didn't use the white cane until I like was far away from work,
Mhm.
and then I pulled it out. But yeah, it was a really really tough time. But then I went off for Christmas break in December,
Mhm.
and then on January 1st, I woke up with this migraine-like headache that I actually still have today.
Mhm.
So I was diagnosed with something called new daily persistent headache. So basically, I have this migraine headache all the time.
Is
And
that
so that
connected to the dystrophy with the Conan rods, or is it a completely different
I
diagnosis?
thought it would have been,
Mhm.
or the stress, but the doctor said no. It just happened.
Okay.
But there's no cure for it. Many people live with it for many years.
Mhm.
I've had it since 2019.
Mhm.
It's a lot better now. Like the first 8 months, I was bedridden. I just couldn't move.
Mhm.
But I've learned to kind of live in the low pain moments now. Like that's my new thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was and I didn't stop working because of vision loss, but because of chronic
Right.
illness. So that's when my life really took a nosedive at
Mhm.
that point. Yeah.
How was your
So
employer with, with the evolution of everything, and you visiting with them about the changes? Was it something they tried to make accommodations and maybe they learned from, or are they resistant
I
to kind of,
think they were afraid of me
okay.
um, hurting people, or because I would
Mhm.
work very closely with patients.
Mhm.
And I understand that too. Um, but yeah, like, and I'd been doing well up until that
Right.
point. But it was hard. It was hard to let go of that
Mhm.
identity.
Yeah.
And it was hard to for the rest of the employees to understand why she wasn't in the procedure room, but she was at a desk. Like, did something happen? Did you?
Right.
Yeah,
Well,
because I
and you
was.
probably could have, continued on even longer, I would
Yeah,
think, with muscle memory and everything.
yeah,
Do you
yeah,
feel like they were just not open at all to having you continue really with that?
yeah. I think so. I think
Yeah.
so. I think there's a level of that. Of course, no one will say it, but I definitely
Right.
felt it, and I felt like they they no longer saw me as
Mm,
capable.
right.
Yeah.
I think that that happens way too often when people
Hmm.
start realizing, what kind of chronic illness we have, or
Yes.
they like automatically have those ableist assumptions. I think that
Yes.
just show up, and it's really can be debilitating. I think on
Yes.
like,
Yes.
and I mean, in a way, it's almost like a side of you is just gone, or a version of you is not there anymore, and people
Yeah.
can't really handle that. And yeah, it's just really difficult, I think, to transition at that point.
It is. It is, and that's where I didn't even know who I was.
Yeah.
What I like, what I want to do, but
So
now I
what
look
was kind
at.
of your next step after? Yeah, I'm assuming you at some point you left that job, and did you kind of
Yeah.
know where to go next, or you were going to experiment maybe?
Well, I wasn't able to return to work,
Yeah.
so I was at home and I was bedridden for those 8 months,
Mhm.
and it was yeah. I haven't been able to return to work, but I've done
Mhm.
volunteer and content creation here, and
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, and I think that's where I saw that I could still help in some way because
Yeah.
I still wanted to do something that made a difference, and I wanted to show that we're so much more
Mhm.
and we're so capable, and feel like even though that was a very, very difficult time,
Mhm.
coming to terms with that, mm, and getting to that point of acceptance
Mhm.
has changed everything for me. In that I look at my life now and I think, wow, who would have thought?
Mhm.
And you know what? That your perspective can change, and
Absolutely.
you can still do so much more. Like, I'm amazed, like, the things I've been able to do since,
Mhm.
never on my bucket list before, but, like, wow.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
that's really cool when you can find that too. I think that that kind of self-discovery and reinvention, and I think
yeah,
when I've had times where I was bedridden in ICU for a time, and that I think getting in your thoughts and kind of learning, well, I can't be that person anymore.
yeah,
It's really, I mean, it's difficult, but at the same time, I think you really grow and find out kind of maybe what you're supposed to do or something.
yeah,
But
yeah, I
it's
think that's exactly it, like, what you're supposed to do.
yeah,
I think that I'm more me today than I
yeah,
ever was. All the everything in the past, it just ma it although it was difficult, I could not understand at the time, it makes sense now,
mhm,
and I'm so glad for where I am today. And
yeah,
I wouldn't change it because I've been able to connect with so many people and just
mhm,
build meaningful relationships and have a really purposeful life.
right.
Like, I don't make money, but I'm happier.
Well, I mean, there's other income besides
Yes,
financial,
yeah,
I think, don't you?
yeah,
Yeah, like I mean, just volunteering. I think that the fulfillment, what you get back by helping, somebody else that needs something, even if it helps one person with something just small, like,
yes,
I think that the benefits of that, I think the reward is so much more than, a lot of the financial income
yeah,
out there. So
yeah,
yeah, I mean, obviously it's still challenging, and finances are always going to be a big factor, especially with all
yes,
of our medical needs and things. But
yes,
still, I think that volunteering, sharing a story, trying to help people that are going through something similar is it's I mean, you really can't put a value on that, I don't
no.
think.
And I've been able to now, like, sit on a couple boards. So
Yeah.
with my local city and just providing my lens in terms of accessibility, looking at
Mhm.
municipal buildings and spaces, and, like, being part of change, I
Mhm.
think is so important when you can use your voice and your lived experience for that. And even with my local transit,
Mhm.
and then giving back to CNIB as well. They've given me so much. But also, being in those, being having a space that I can now give back.
Mhm.
and help others has, been so rewarding.
Right. Do these organizations, do they sort of look at buildings and add accessibility features or retrofit maybe to make it more accessible? Like what is the main kind of mission of those?
Yeah, so I'm with my local city's accessibility team. So they'll
Mhm.
have in managers from different departments in the city. For example, we had one from IT, and they were working on their website page by page to make it accessible.
Mhm.
For screen readers, they even downloaded the JAWS screen reader so they can go through it, and then they bring it to us, the team, and we review it and take a look at it, provide any more insight.
Mhm.
We recently went to one of the community centers, and we did a walkthrough, because many times they think of physical accessibility, but there's also they're missing the visual part too. So then I can
Right.
say okay, you know what, it's all a white wall. I
Mhm.
can't see anything, but if I've tapped all indicators, that'll help me get from the change room to the pool, and even around the pool, some edging there, because I could literally just walk right in.
It's
I
true.
don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're like, "Oh, right, that makes," you know what I mean? And so
Yeah.
having those conversations, and it's like, what can we do to improve? And even they're just redoing their kids water park and making that accessible for
Mhm.
everybody, right?
Mhm.
And I'm like, yeah, as a mom, say, with vision loss, I want to take my kids there. How can it
True.
work for me too, as well, right? So it's been so eye-opening and so
Yeah, right.
rewarding
Right.
to be able to lend a voice.
Well, it seems like even in my experience, like people don't necessarily, it's not something that they are negative about or not willing to help with. It's more of an awareness thing. Like they
It
don't
is
understand
absolutely, yeah,
even something like you position like a statue that like sticks out that
yes,
there's no way for anybody to know it's there, you know. So
yeah,
it's some kind of indicator. Like once they realize or understand, then they're more than willing to try to implement something to help. But it's kind of an awareness, like living in our own, like people living in our shoes, and so to
yes.
speak, you know. It's
Yeah, and
yeah,
most times I find, even through social media and
yeah,
in-person things, most people hear why, and they see it, they understand, they're like, "Oh, I get it," right? So,
yeah,
and for me, I find that the most effective way to
right.
educate. Yeah.
Was there a moment where you maybe didn't realize that, and then someone interacted, and then they maybe helped implement a change, and it was kind of like, oh, well, maybe I should share more, like, get more into this and share more of the story. Was there a moment kind of where
Um,
you changed on that,
where I changed.
or like maybe an experience that like you're like, oh, well, maybe I need to share my story more or get more involved with social media, anything like that?
I think it's after I did my TEDx talk, and
Okay.
even with on social media, I've been able to reach a global audience.
Mhm.
But it's like, what can I do in my own backyard, in my own city, on the ground level for change?
Right.
Right. So that's where I started to peel back and go, let me see what I can do here in the city. Volunteer, I lead the seniors group for CNIB, and we just
Uh-huh.
chat and stuff, and find support, and just how can I really be on that ground level to be supportive? Because we're so, the reality is there's not many blind people around me. So
True.
how can I help who's nearby me, my neighbor, right?
Right.
That
Right.
yeah,
It almost like by seeking out or just exploring kind of what your community looks like and the people in it, maybe like makes it more comfortable too for people
yeah,
to come out and talk and try to do that. Yeah, that's
yeah,
really cool to think about,
yeah,
kind of the global scale, but also realizing that there is, like community around you too that can, I mean, you can enact change much quicker maybe that way too.
yes, yes.
Yeah,
And even, just sharing about universal design, because we
yeah,
know that we're all going to be disabled at some point
it's
in time.
true.
This is the biggest club you can join, right? That anyone can
Yep.
join.
Yep. And I
So
know that we always, talk about how it can happen at any point to
mhm,
anybody, right? So
yeah,
yeah.
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 And so why don't we have a world that is built for everybody?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking about the TEDx talk and wanting to get a little more detail on it, like how did you get involved with it? And like what was that experience like for you?
Um, this path has just been crazy for me. But
Yeah.
well, what happened was, I guess it started basically from iDesign. She had put me on her community blog.
Hmm.
And so Purdy's, the local chocolate company here, they had read that blog, and they asked me part of their holiday braille box, the first one
Hmm.
that they were doing. And that ended up being the first time I was on set. And, there's asking me these questions. I'm like nervous. I don't like
Mhm.
copy. I don't like anything. And I kept stumbling over my words. And I'm like, you know
Mhm.
what? After this, I need help with public speaking.
Yeah.
So I joined a public speaking group, and it was led by blind individuals. So it taught me how to look at the camera, and just telling my story. Um, so I finished that, and then I am also part of Jillian Harris's Jilly Academy, and there was a contest or a speaking contest, and I ended up winning.
Nice.
So part of that was having a one-on-one with Jillian herself, and we talked about public speaking, and I said, I want to use my voice for change. So there was some connections made, and I did a talk at a women's entrepreneur group. And I was on this high,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
there was a, application for TEDx, and I'm like, "Oh, I'll just apply." Like, I
Mhm.
don't think I'm gonna get it, but, and I just wanted to know what it was like, that's all. But I ended up making it through the application process,
Mhm.
making it the first round, which I had to pitch myself in 3 minutes, and then I made it to the next round, which I had to pitch myself in 1 minute, and there was all this interview process too, and I got it, and I was like, "Oh my god, now I have to
Well, yeah.
do a speech."
Yeah.
So
Was the 1 minute one harder or the 3 minute one? I'm
one
curious, like which
The
version of
one
the
minute was
pitch
so
was
hard.
it? Yeah.
Yeah, that was really hard. Yeah, yeah, because you had to have, like, your TEDx thought idea, like, and just really pitch
Yeah.
it in that moment, and it had to be really strong, so that
That
was
seems
really
really
hard.
daunting to me.
Yes, yes. I could do the written parts and things like that,
Yeah.
but
Well, and even three
yeah.
minutes feels like, you can express things pretty well in three
Yes,
minutes, but
yes, and if
60
you lose your
seconds,
train
that's
of
a
thought, you're just doomed, right?
yeah, exactly. That's a short clock there. Yeah.
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 So, and TEDx is great because they provide speaking coaches, and
Mhm.
that helped me through. But I was working on my speech, and I was so stuck. I had this terrible writer's block. I had these ideas, but I just couldn't connect them.
Mhm.
And it was getting close. The TEDx was in November, so it was getting to like September, and I was
Mhm.
freaking out because I have a speech yet, and they're
Mhm.
selling tickets, and I'm like, oh gosh, I don't know. But I just kept working on at it, and that's the lesson I've really learned in all this. Just keep going, no matter what it is. Just keep going,
Mhm.
and it just finally clicked. And then I was able to do the speech, and I would practice and practice. And what I learned from that is, people, my other TEDx speakers would introduce themselves. I'm a PhD, and I'm a doctor, and I'm a lawyer,
Mhm.
and I'd be like, I'm just a mom. But what I realized is, like, they had been so used to public speaking that there was no practice involved,
Right.
but I was constantly practicing. So when it came down to like a week before, even the night before, many weren't ready.
Mhm.
Um, but it's because I kept working at it. And
Right.
and that's the thing, that I would want anyone to know is, don't underestimate yourself and never think you're lower. You can actually achieve anything. You just have to keep working at it.
It's true.
Anything is possible. And I end up getting the coveted spot of the closing speech for that day.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, so yeah, that's how the dentist was.
Wow.
And I had to
Well,
fully memorize it because I can't
you
see
did.
the screen like a
Oh,
prompt. They have
right.
a teleprompt screen, like you can
Uh-huh.
put notes there, but I can't see it. So I had to really memorize it. And it has to be under 18 minutes. If you go over, it doesn't get sent to TED.
Mhm.
So yeah, I had to
So
really
it was
practice.
strictly enforced time frame. Yeah.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Is there an adaptive technique now or some kind of technology that could make that sort of more accessible for you on like a prompter or anything? Or is it
If
still
the prompter was really big.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. But yeah, I had to really, it just came down to practice,
yeah,
pacing, and not giving up. And, don't let outside noise get to you. Just
right.
keep going. And the good thing is I can't see, so I can't see the audience. So I just keep going.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
have to look at the positives.
Well, that makes me think that there's always that thing about like imagining the audience in their underwear or something funny
Yes,
like that.
yes.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I was going to say too that the even people with the most PhDs, like even my experience in school and everything with that, it's like you still you have to rehearse and you have
You
to
have to. Yeah.
practice and the pacing, like all that is still you have to spend the time regardless of
Yes.
like what your position is or anything. I think so.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And even
that's a
like,
good
your
lesson.
arm movements, or if you're moving from one edge of the stage to the other, like just
Mm,
staying in that little circle. Yeah, it was a lot of like
a
or
lot of like
orchestration. It came
cadence.
back to that muscle memory.
Exactly. And then again, like that was a skill that you had back in the
Yeah,
job at the fertility clinic too.
yeah,
So that
yeah,
yeah, that's a skill that's really valuable, I think.
yeah. And I think that's the thing, like, we go through the change or disability, but you know what? There's that part of us is not lost.
Mhm.
We still have those skills. And I think the things that I can transfer into this new life now is like I still have people skills, I still can
Mhm.
communicate well, I can still work as a team, even like I work from home or whatever. But I'm like
Mhm.
constantly building relationships, and those are the things that when those 8 months when I felt like I'd lost everything, I actually still had all those things
Mhm.
that I could just use them in a different way now.
Right. I think that's such a really like creative and good way to look at it, and it's
Mhm.
sometimes it takes that
Yeah,
long period of processing, trying to figure out like what's going on and why and like where do I go next. So it's
yeah,
it's really cool to hear that you've kind of found the place that fits you perfectly, and you
yeah,
still like that quality of life factor for me too is always such a
yeah.
big thing.
It's a huge thing, right?
Yeah,
And even though you hit rock bottom, that's the lowest you're gonna go. So after
it's
that, it's just
true.
climbing up, right? So yeah, hang
Yep.
in there.
Right. At some point, it doesn't get worse. You have to just keep going.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so, and then you're an author as well. So, what kind of have you written books, or what is your pathway with that been so far?
So yeah, it's interesting how I even got into that. And then it was really
Yeah.
building relationships through Instagram people I met. So this one lady, she wanted to do like an anthology of female authors.
Okay.
So she asked me to be part of it. So the first book was called Become Empowered, Echoes of Grace and Strength. So there's 13 female authors in there. And I have a chapter in that book.
Okay.
And that one talks about my vision loss journey. And while I was writing that, um, same thing, a connection from a publisher reached out and they, said, we'd love to have you on a roster for the
Mm.
2024 year, would you be interested? And I was like, okay. I mean, at this stage of my life, I'm like, why not?
Let's
Right?
try it.
What have I
Yeah.
got to lose?
Yeah. Well,
So,
that's cool though that the network. I mean, it
it,
expands and you make new contacts and they reach out.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that is the power of community.
Yeah.
I think, building relationship, you know, relating well with people, it can open up so many doors for you. And I've
Mhm.
been so, so fortunate. So yeah, I started working on that, and so I had a year to write that. So I had to write that in 2024. Um, I I must be a really bad procrastinator because I started it and then I would stop, and then I'm like, oh, I have to finish it now.
Well, I
Yeah,
can relate to that, which
yeah,
probably makes me a procrastinator too, but I
yeah.
get it.
But it, I guess, pushes me. So yeah, I finished it at the end of
Yeah.
2024, and then it got released in 2025, and that is um, I think chapters in my life that have made a significant impact.
Mhm.
And it's dealing with grief, chronic illness, vision loss, being a caregiver,
Mhm.
and my husband now being a caregiver for me too, relationships, and it's how it's in between those chapters of life. It's the growth that comes
Mhm.
there, like, it while you're going through it, you're just like, "What am I I'm not getting, like,
Yeah.
get out anything out of this," but it's actually when that chapter ends and another one, it's just right in that those cracks that you learn the most, and
Mhm.
it helps carry you through. So it's kind of like a little there are some at the end of each chapter, there's, like, thoughts and notes to reflect, and I just wanted it to be like a handbook for
Yeah.
someone, to go back to whenever they're going through something.
That's such a perfect term for it, I think, too, handbook. Like
Yeah.
I think about like younger versions of or like younger people that are going through similar things, they don't I know I didn't have a handbook for how to
Mhm.
navigate
Yeah.
muscular dystrophy life. So like
Yeah.
that's such a thing that I think is needed for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The
Um,
highs and the lows,
exactly. Like the
Yeah.
whole, the
Mhm.
spectrum of experiences. Yeah. And then you mentioned that you had been kind of patient and caregiver.
Mhm.
It seems like you have a really well-rounded idea kind of what it takes to be on each part or wear each hat of that
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah. For my husband, he had a stroke at age
Mhm.
40. So I became really his, for, the good things, like I had knowledge in the medical field.
Mhm.
So being able to communicate to the doctors, advocating for him, like following up, sitting there in appointments because he'd be like, I'm fine. I'm like, "No, you're
Right, right.
not
Mhm.
fine." So really, really, being an advocate, and watching him carefully, how he was doing and being that bridge between, him and the kids. Because with the stroke, his personality would change.
Mhm. Mhm.
So and it was hard for the kids to understand. So just being a bridge constantly and being a caregiver is
Mhm.
hard. And there, I even when I think about it today, there's really not much help for caregivers.
Right.
So
And they
there's that.
dedicate so much. I mean, they give it
Yes.
just because they're family and because that's they care, but
Yeah.
I agree. That's such a, I think they're overlooked a lot, and there's a lot of
Yes.
resources that could be diverted to their side too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then with my vision loss, my husband has had to, step up more and
Mm,
help around the
mhm,
house or help me with things, or he's my driver, my chauffeur,
mhm.
right? He
Yeah.
worries constantly about me. So it's a delicate balance.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And do you feel like that your kids kind of learn to some, it seemed like really, helpful lessons maybe for later in life, or,
Yeah.
things later on?
Like when my husband had the stroke, like it was so hard on the kids.
Mhm,
And and I and then because I was working all the time, I wasn't able to be at home. And I used to
mhm,
be a stay-at-home mom, take them to school, take them to all these things. Um, but I wasn't there anymore. And my husband, has post-stroke fatigue, so he'd be tired.
mhm.
So they'd be trying to figure out their homework on their own. Sometimes he'd help them, but they get frustrated with each other. So I come home and everybody's crying,
Oh
right?
no. Well,
So it was a
kids crying
difficult
about
time.
homework is probably a,
Yeah, yeah, and math homework.
yeah, that sounds
Yeah.
familiar.
But
Yeah.
in that, my 2 youngest, my oldest one was just graduating and heading off to
Mhm,
university. Um, they but the 2 younger ones really helped each other, so they would help make lunches for each other, get snacks for each other, and they were really taking care of each other. Um, and they have a very strong bond today
mhm,
where they still take care of each other. My youngest one, turned to drawing as her escape. So she loved to draw on the iPad, and then that kind of transformed her into when she went to university, getting into the studies of applied design and technology.
mm,
And
okay.
he saw the struggles that I was having with technology. So she's very interested in user experience, UX design.
Mhm,
So all of these things have kind of helped, um, I think, given them so much more. And
mhm,
I'm so proud of them because they're very compassionate. So when they now notice people, on the subway system or on the
mhm.
buses that have a cane or are disabled, and they'll give the person the side eye, like give this,
Yeah.
and they just have this much more awareness um, for people, and I think that's the greatest thing that has come out of this. I worried so much for them,
Mhm.
but they have become very strong people. Yeah.
There, I mean, it's amazing when you see, those kind of networks and bonds kind of develop, I
Yes.
think, and like the younger ages learning, as quickly as they can, I think, like empathy and realizing
Yeah.
like, there are people that like look and have all different abilities, disabilities, whatever, I think that's really so cool to see how that can be used, to for good and to help more people going forward, I think.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that's really cool to hear, that
Yeah.
they went through
Yeah.
that
And just
journey.
especially with my husband too, they learned patience, kind of watching his mannerisms or
Mhm.
expressions to like kind of gauge, how he's doing and stuff too. So
Yeah,
I think those are very important soft skills that
absolutely.
can be useful
And
for life.
they're not taught or made available to people, I don't think, very
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
routinely. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
those critical thinking skills, like so
It's
important.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I mean, kind of daily life things too that make a
Yeah.
big difference, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of the last direction I wanted to go for this podcast. And there's so many things I could visit with you about, but
It's been a great conversation.
yeah. But I always thought that our first, pre-visit could have been its own episode as well.
Yeah.
But I wanted to ask you about kind of your experience with intersectionality, and then
Mm,
with disability, but other, parts of you and who you are, like how would those things maybe change your experience, or, kind of what's your take-home message for, how to, I guess, how to um, go into the world and do, do what you want to and find your passion, basically.
mm. I think that don't let the world box you in.
Mhm,
You are the author of your own story. You can decide how you want things to play out. But uh, I, for me, want to show up and be representation in all spaces. And it's been amazing to see, whether at the local community level or um, social media or in speaking, like,
mhm,
and especially go to women's entrepreneur groups a lot just to be in that space and not ask for a seat at table, but I deserve a seat at table. I
Right.
that seat is mine. And it's good for people to see that how you are navigating life, and you are just like anyone else. I have the same interests, I have the same passions, I
Hmm.
love the same things, and I can connect on so many ways, even though I may not be able to see you so clearly, or I might need help navigating space, but it doesn't take away anything from me. And in the weirdest turn of events, I end up being on in acting now, right? So it's just like, oh, like, and again,
Yeah,
like, I think they asked, why do you want to do that? I go, why not? Like,
true.
like there's space for me, and I want to show that I can do it, and I can do it well. And then on Sunday, I just started voice acting lessons, so I'm
Wow,
just like,
that is really cool.
like, and even the lady's like, oh, right, and for she even in the middle of the class, she said, you know what, I'm not used to giving audio clues, but this is something I want to learn. So wherever you can help me, please speak up. And I'm like, this is
Mm,
how it is. It's like I didn't have to say anything, but just being there,
yeah,
I created some education and awareness.
I love that. Wow, that's
Yeah,
such. I mean, that's kind of the perfect storm. I think is when you can have that kind of experience.
yeah,
Wow, that's really
yeah,
cool. I'm looking forward to hearing about the voice acting.
yeah.
That's intimidating for me for sure.
Yeah. Well, I was
Yeah.
thinking like it's like public speaking presentation,
Eh,
but she's like, no, tell me this commercial in a conversational way. And I'm like, it's not
mhm,
written to be conversational, but like it
right.
really challenges you. And I'm like, and I know that like whatever skills I learn from it,
Mhm.
I can use in other areas.
It's true.
So why not? Right?
I mean, like lifelong learning is a thing, right? Like that's such
Yes.
a valuable tool, I think, to keep
Yes.
keep trying new things and kind of pushing the edge of of what you can do.
Yeah.
That's
And
really great.
yeah, and I love being I'm fortunate that I have a platform on social media that I
True.
can share and show that, what, there are no limitations.
Mm,
Just keep going.
yeah, that's perfectly said, I think. And
Yeah.
but no, I sure appreciate it, Anne, and then
Yeah.
definitely want to follow and see what you're up to in the future. But for people that want to kind of see what you're doing or learn more about with your journey and accessibility and everything, where is Instagram kind of the place to go?
Yeah. Instagram's the main one. Definitely come over and say hi over there. My
Yeah.
Instagram handle is Purpose in View. My website, purposeinview.com, but where the other links to my LinkedIn or just my story and things I've done.
Mhm.
Um, and for fun, check out YouTube. I was on Kia Worldwide commercial, and it talks about how the technology we have in the cars currently, the sensors, uh, they use it as an experiment for it to create music,
Mhm.
so that as a blind and low vision person, I could understand the landscape around me with music.
Wow, that
Yeah,
sounds very cool.
yeah,
I'm definitely going to check that out, and I'll be sure
yeah.
to share that in your website and everything in
Okay,
the captions. So yeah, that's really cool. But I
thank
sure
you.
appreciate it, Ann, and I'll definitely be in touch.